Property taxes are one of the expenses that you have when you own a home. But in case you didn't know, those taxes change once you purchase the property. Hi everybody, I'm Diana Harvey, and in case you didn't know, is my mortgage show. Today, I am sitting here with Amber Lewis with Berkshire Hathaway, and we're going to have a conversation about property taxes and how they affect you, the buyer, when you purchase a property. Hi Amber.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Thank you so much for coming in today.
Thanks for having me. I am excited to talk about real estate taxes.
This is going to be an interesting conversation because I think it's one that very few people really understand.
I agree.
Let's start by talking about how property taxes are calculated in the first place. So property taxes are based on the sales price or assessed value times the local community millage rate. But of course, on top of that, there's a few exemptions and caps that go along with that. So let's talk a little bit about what some of those exemptions are.
Yes, so there's actually a variety of exemptions that buyers of homes can apply for. One of them is a homestead exemption. So if you are purchasing a home and it is going to be your primary residence, that will give you a discount on your property taxes. There's a few different personal exemptions as well. So if you're a widow, if you have personal disability, if you're blind, or if you have total and permanent disability, those are all qualifiers for different exemptions on your real estate taxes.
And then of course, if it's your primary residence and you've homesteaded, you've also got that Save Our Homes cap.
Correct, yes. So the Save Our Homes cap means that once your property is homestead, every year, year after year, the maximum amount that your property taxes can increase would be 3% per year at a maximum, which really helps so that year over year your taxes aren't increasing exponentially and very quickly.
And we all know our properties here in Florida have appreciated quite a bit more than 3% per year.
Yes. So that is something to consider if you're either purchasing an investment property or if you're buying your primary residence and you're looking at the seller and what their taxes are. If the seller has lived in the home and it is their main residence or their primary residence, it's hard to tell if a seller has homestead the property or if they have other exemptions that they've applied for and qualify for. So that's something to consider when you're purchasing the home, as far as looking at the seller's taxes and how yours will be different.
Well, Amber, one of the things I like to do is I like to give people kind of an example of my own personal property.
Yes.
I think this is a great example of how that homestead can work and how properties that are listed sometimes people don't really realize how much their taxes could change. So I live in a real cookie cutter neighborhood. The houses are all pretty much the same. Mm-hmm. But I've lived in my house for 17 years. I owned a home prior to that. I was able to have the portability of taking over the homestead exemption that I had from the other property. Plus, of course, I've had that 3% per year cap. My neighbor purchased his house 2 years ago, and it's a second home. So if both of our houses were on the market at the same time, even though they might be identical in square footage, my property taxes are like less than half of what his property taxes are. But of course, the new buyer, that's not going to be what their taxes are. It's going to be based on their purchase.
Correct. And with home values increasing so much over the last couple years, in this example, since you purchased 17 years ago, your purchase price and then therefore the assessed value for the purpose of your taxes is much lower because it was originally assessed 17 years ago, a maximum of a 3% increase every year, versus your neighbor who just 2 years ago purchased. That purchase price is much higher. Therefore, the assessed value is reflecting that purchase price, which is going to be at a much larger number, and then therefore their taxes are higher. And the fact that they are not able to homestead the property because it's not a primary, those taxes year over year can go up.
So that's one of the things you and I both insist on going over with buyers so that they fully understand. I like to tell them, first of all, don't look at you want to buy my house just because the taxes are lower, even though you might like my neighbor's better, because they're both going to change.
Correct. Yes. Looking at taxes from the seller, you just don't know necessarily their circumstances or what exemptions they qualify for. So it's really looking about what's the purchase price. We can get a ballpark figure on the assessed value of your home. And then from there, if this is your primary, if you qualify for any personal, military, senior citizen exemptions, then we can kind of factor that in. But yes, especially in this market where price points are very different than they were even 2 years ago, let alone longer ago, it's a huge factor to consider.
So then one of the things that I always like to cover with people is, okay, now you've got property taxes included in with your monthly payment, but initially that monthly payment's going to be based on, let's just say it's my house, so you're going to have really low taxes initially, but it's going to go up. So what's that going to look like? Well, the thing to understand is that property taxes are paid in arrears, so the tax that's due this coming November is actually this past year's tax bill. So you'd be paying in with the escrow account that you set up with your mortgage, my tax bill amount, not what your future one will be. It will be all the way next November before that's going to be assessed at what your new assessed value is and your new tax amount. So to kind of go over this on how this looks like in your payment, let's just say, for example, because like I said, mine's really, really low, let's just say your property taxes go up $2,400. So we find that out next November when the bill comes out. We go ahead and pay your tax bill, but you're $2,400 short. So we're going to come back to you and analyze the escrow account, and we're going to say, okay, here's the thing. We need to raise your payment by $200 to cover the new tax bill at $2,400, but you also owe us $2,400. So you either have to pay the $2,400 or we're going to increase your payment by $400 a month. So those are things that people really need to be aware of, and you and I both try to make sure that people understand that going into it so that they're actually saving that $200 a month instead of going, oh boy, it's really low right now.
Right. And I think a great resource for buyers, if you have an idea of what county or city or municipality that you want to purchase your home in, every tax appraiser typically you can go on their website. A lot of them have a tax tool so that you can calculate a range of what your taxes may be after purchasing at the new purchase price. So you plug in the purchase price, they take into consideration the millage rate, which is what some different cities and counties tax on, and then from there they'll give you a range. So you have a feel of, okay, I'm purchasing, this is my range, and then from there you can apply for some of these different exemptions that you may qualify for.
And I always like to cover that with people up front, as I know you do as well, because that way people understand when you're looking at property number one, here's the differences, and here's also what's going to happen once you get into the property a year down the road. The last thing on earth we want is for people to suddenly go, whoa, I wasn't prepared for this and now I can't afford the house.
Right. And that's important as far as like the timeline for applying for exemptions. So if you purchase a home anytime in the year of 2022, for example, you have until March 1st of 2023, on or before that date, you want to make sure that you have applied for either homestead or any other of the exemptions that you may qualify for. So once you apply for the year that you purchased your home, then the taxes for that year, which are paid at the end of the year, those exemptions then go ahead and apply for that year, which is going to be the year that your home's reassessed, and those prices are going to change.
And that homestead exemption is roughly $50,000, which is quite a big amount.
So yes, the assessed value discount is going to be lower.
Since the millage rate's the tax is based on the millage rate times the assessed value, 50,000 less assessed value is going to make the taxes a lot cheaper.
Correct. So yes, as far as the property taxes being paid in arrears, so the way that works is the either city or county will mail out a tax bill for property taxes on November 1st. You have until March 31st, so the following year, to make sure your property taxes are paid. However, there is a discount where if you pay them closer to November or every month leading up to March, you actually get a little bit of a discount, and that discount lessens as you get closer to the deadline. So that's something to just keep in mind and take into consideration, where if you can pay it up front, then that's definitely an advantage of getting the discount on taxes.
And of course, if you have a mortgage, we're going to actually pay that bill in the month of November so we can get the best discount possible.
Absolutely.
And I know we wanted to mention real quickly, there's a couple of other exemptions that we hadn't touched on.
Yes. So some additional exemptions, there's military and veteran exemptions and discounts on property taxes. So some of those are veteran disability, service-connected total and permanent, and then surviving spouse of military veteran or first responder. You've got deployed military active duty, and then there's also senior citizen over 65 with low income discounts and exemptions. And then if you have parents or grandparents that are living with you, you can actually get a discount as well. Or if you've built an additional structure on your property for a parent or grandparent, that also qualifies for an exemption. So that's something to definitely look into if that's the case.
So Amber, we've covered a lot of information. Of course, it's not everything out there. There's a lot of other little things. Community development has some different things like that. But I think this is a great tool to give people an overview of property taxes.
Definitely. And it's super important, especially in today's market where prices have increased so much. I think it's important for buyers to understand not to compare what the seller's taxes are and what they're paying, and to really make sure that they've been educated and understand the process of how a home is assessed and taxed per county, city, and taking into consideration that it does have more to do with the purchase price than what the seller is paying.
I think we've done a great job covering an overview of how taxes are paid, how they're calculated, when they're paid, some of the exemptions, and as you mentioned, don't consider what the current seller's paying. Consider what you will be paying once you're the owner.
Correct, definitely.
So Amber, I really want to thank you for taking the time to come in today and go over this complicated topic of property taxes.
Thank you for having me. It's been fun.
Thank you for watching today, and if you'd like more information on Amber, please be sure to click the link so that you can watch her spotlight video. If you would like more information on property taxes and how they might affect your mortgage payment, or if you would have ideas and topics that you would like to discuss, please reach out to me. Would love to hear from you. Have a great week.